But anyways, yeah, I'm back from tour. Just got back from Japan and Australia, and I'm supremely jet lagged, if you can't tell in my face. Didn't sleep on the flight back at all. Mainly because I had this really talkative Australian dude next to me. He was super cool. Like, I really enjoyed talking to him, but he was one of those guys that was so chatty that every time I put in my in-ears and tried to like lay my head back and close my eyes, he'd like nudge me and, hey, mate, want to start talking again. So I didn't really sleep much on the plane, and I got home and I'm totally destroyed. But anyways, haven't done some content for a while, and today I want to do something cool. Before I start, welcome back to everybody in chat on Twitch. We're filming live right now. We'll be on YouTube later. Yeah, I kind of want to recap the biggest situation of our tour, just from my perspective and my point of view, because a lot of people have been asking about this. And I feel this would probably be cool to hear the logistics around this, just from my position as a tour manager. But before we get into story time, let's take a quick second to talk about the sponsor of today's video, Raycon earbuds. The holidays are here, and I always find myself stressed out trying to figure out what to get people. And I always want to get them something that they could use every day, something super practical, maybe something that they already have, but a version of it that I like. And my go-to this year has been Raycon's everyday earbuds. Everybody uses earbuds nowadays, whether they're at the street, walking their dog, at the gym, on the phone. The best thing about Raycon is that they're super affordable. They're half the price of a lot of other brands, and they're just as good, man. I've been using these things nonstop ever since I've gotten them. They've got 32 hours of battery life, active noise cancellation, and one of my favorite things is they actually have sound profiles on them. So at the tap of a button, you can switch between different EQs if you're listening to music, which has come in very handy. And for somebody like me that's on the phone all the time with venues and tour managers of other bands and bus drivers and anybody else in between, these features are invaluable. That's why I've started carrying these everywhere I go. And they're pretty sleek. They're not as obnoxious and notable as a lot of other earbud brands. If you haven't noticed, I've been actually wearing them this entire segment just to kind of prove that point. The personalization options on these are also pretty wild. They come in a wide range of colors, and you can pick out different options for your unique style. You can also get this protective carrying case that I have with it, and this is only just one of them. It comes in many different designs and colors, and it supports wireless charging, so I don't even need to take the case off if I need to charge it. So if you're looking for a last minute holiday gift, or you just want to treat yourself, head on over to buyraycon.com/tankthetech, where you'll get up to 25% off site-wide. Yes, that is site-wide, 25% off by going to buyraycon.com/tankthetech, or clicking the link in the description or the pinned comment. Thank you to Raycon for sponsoring this video and being my everyday earbud of choice. Thank you for watching this, and now let's jump back in. Yeah, as everybody knows, probably by this point, we had our show in Tokyo, and then we went to Australia to do the Good Things Festival. Last 3 days, first shows in Melbourne, then Sydney, then Brisbane. Absolute blast. Like, it was so great. I would say it's one of the best festivals I've experienced. Their production there and the promotion and everything was just top notch, man. Like, it was an absolute blast. But the big story that has been online and people have been asking about was, how did Frank Zummo from Sum 41 end up drumming for Electric Callboy? So I kind of want to go through that and tell the story so everybody can hear that. It was a wild situation, man. So we get to Australia, and we had a day off in Melbourne, and the morning of the show, I woke up at about 7 a.m. to some text messages saying that David, the drummer for Electric Callboy, is not doing good health-wise and may end up going home. And as a tour manager, my brain immediately goes into like, not really panic mode, but like damage control mode. Like, wow, that's serious. Like, a band member is going home. What are we going to do? At that time, we didn't know for sure if he was. We knew that was a possibility. So immediately I started talking to the band members, and I was like, what are we going to do here? Because the situation in itself was wild. Like, Sum 41 was supposed to headline our stage, and they canceled all of their tour dates because Derek, their singer, got pneumonia in Australia. So Electric Callboy, the day before, found out they were getting bumped up to the headlining slot on the stage. So for a band member to have to go home in a position like that is like, it's like, man, It's like, it's one of the worst case scenario things. So I started talking to the band that morning. We went down to like the breakfast area at the hotel and we started talking about what we're going to do. Like, what are the options? And the first actual conversation was who on the crew knows these songs well enough that they could probably play it live. And first thing we talked about was me, because I have actually done that with my band last minute, where I've switched from playing bass to playing a full headlining show with my band on drums with no practice or rehearsals or anything. But then after talking about it for a while, we were like, well, like some of the band members were like, no offense, but like we've never seen you play drums before, so like we wouldn't feel comfortable. And I was like, of course. Then we talked about CHRIZZLY, then we talked about Bolo. Like Bolo, our front of house engineer, plays drums. Like CHRIZZLY was in a metalcore band. We just started throwing out ideas here and there. And then it finally hit me. Like I was like, guys, we're at a festival with 30 other bands. There's gotta be somebody here that could fill in for you guys that's playing another set or something like that. And then coincidentally, as we were sitting there, I got a text message from Isla, the production coordinator for Sum 41, who was still there. Because their flights were already booked and because they were in Australia, they were like, well, we're just gonna, go to the shows anyways and just hang out. So they were at the same hotel as us. And like, it had hit me. I was like, wait a second. Do you think, and I was texting her this, I was like, I kind of explained really quickly what happened. And I was like, do you think Frank would be able and want to sit in with Electric Callboy? Because Frank Zummo is an incredible drummer, man. For anybody that doesn't know about Frank, like he's been with Sum 41, I think for about 10 years. He's not their original drummer, but he's been with them for quite a while. He's one of the founding members of the Street Drum Corps. And he even filled in as an emergency drummer for Motley Crue. Like he filled in for Tommy Lee on short notice, like almost same situation. The dude is good. So Isla was like, yeah, let me go see. And the funny thing is coincidentally, I didn't know Bolo, our front of house engineer, had also brought this up to another band member around the same time. Was like, well, if Sum 41's here, maybe Frank could do it. So a few of us had this idea. So she texted me back and goes, yeah, he's next door getting coffee right now, but he'll be back to the hotel in a second. Do you want me to bring him up and meet the band and stuff like that? So he literally came straight over from getting coffee next door and sat with us in the lobby of the hotel and talked to the band, and the band explained to him what was going on. And without any hesitation at all, he was like, yeah, I'll do it. He's like, no problem. Like, let's go. At this point, it was like 11 a.m., the day of the show. And he's like, yeah, I'll just go up to my hotel room right now and just start. And that would give him about 5 hours before he had to like leave the hotel and go to the festival grounds. With no drum kit, mind you. No drum kit to practice on. He just sat in his hotel room and learned like lap drumming, and no rehearsal with the band. Also, not his own drum kit. We kind of had to tell him like, we have a backlined drum kit that David's using and you can use it and we'll set up however. Luckily his drum tech was still there. His drum tech was able to go to the festival and like see David's rental kit and readjust everything the way that Frank wanted to play. We had to have Dimitri, our Australian tour manager, get a hold of a backline company to find a couple pieces of hardware that Frank preferred. So later that day, we found out like David was for sure going home for the entire trip because of his health. And we asked like Frank, even before that, we're like, you're only available for 2 shows. And then he goes, you know what? If you need it, he goes, I'll just cancel my drum clinic in Brisbane and I'll play with you guys in Brisbane too. And we're just like, Jesus, what a guy. Like he's just fucking willing to just last minute, like just sit in. So we go over to the festival, like 5 hours later. Well, I went earlier because I had a lot of work to do, and his tech went over and worked with CHRIZZLY and stuff like that. It was weird, dude. It was like I said, no rehearsal with the band. They didn't go over anything. He just learned the set. So before we were starting the show, to say that everybody was nervous is kind of an understatement, to be honest, even though it was Frank. Even the crew, like we were a little like, dude, how is this going to go? You're so used to having the same, David's been with Electric Callboy for over 10 years. We're so used to his style of drummer because every drummer has different feel and different timing and stuff like that. So we were a little nervous. And the funny thing is when the show actually started in Melbourne, first night, my mind is all over the place and I'm running all over the place doing things that when Techno Train, the first song actually started, I wasn't watching the stage. I was doing something else. And he played the whole intro perfectly. to the point where like I didn't even remember that it was David not drumming. Like I forgot for a minute that Frank was drumming, and then when I looked at the stage, I was like, oh shit. Like I totally forgot that Frank was drumming because everything sounded good when it started. Sorry, Fui Dibble just said, how did he learn just listening to studio tracks? No, we actually got like a live show, like tracks, like Lobby pulled live tracks and sent it to him so he could hear like the live drumming and stuff. So he listened to drum tracks with the rest of the other tracks from a previous live show. So he heard everything. As the set went on, like there were noticeable things that he wasn't doing like David, because there's a lot of double kicks and a lot of fills and stuff like that. The most important thing for a drummer in that situation to do is just to get like the bones correct. Like make sure the structure is correct. You don't have to get the little things. You don't have to do the fills perfectly and stuff like that. So there were things that even our crew like were noticing, but the crowd never notices those things because like I said, when you're in a band and a crew and you're so used to hearing like the same little things every night, you notice it. But I watched the crowd the whole night and the crowd went apeshit. They didn't notice really anything. He had his own touch on it. Yeah, like there were a couple moments where he flip-flopped like halftime and double time parts, like verses that were supposed to be like picked up like this. He half-timed and went like this, which there was a couple of them that I actually looked at Jan, our guitar tech, and I was like, that actually sounds kind of cool like that. Like it was different, but it actually worked and it was really cool. Fui Dibble also just said, did he bring notes or something to stage? You could see him looking down to the side from side to time. So that's another interesting thing. He did. He used his laptop and charted everything out and he kept it next to him and was flipping through songs. So not only was he focused on playing, but half the time he had his head turned, reading charts, and not even looking at his drums. He has feel of the drum kit because he wasn't even looking at his drums half the time. He was looking at charts. So the first show goes off and of course all of us are just like, that was different. Like we noticed all the little things and stuff like that. And I kept having to remind myself and everybody else, like, it doesn't matter. We need to see how the crowd responded. And they responded huge, dude. Just because it was different for us because it wasn't used to what we were hearing, the crowd had an insanely good time and went nuts. Some of the things that we saw online too were saying like how good the show was. And I was just like, great. Like that's all we need as long as the crowd's happy. And then the next night in Melbourne, like I even told the guys, I was like, dude, I guarantee you too, even though he played well, he's going to stay up all night in his hotel and listen to all of these songs all over again. And I guarantee you the next show, he's going to start getting the little things. And sure enough, at the show in Sydney, he was hitting the little things. Like he was hitting drum fills, little parts like that you wouldn't expect somebody to remember just from learning it. And then the third night in Brisbane was even better. Like the third night in Brisbane was like not even noticeable at all. Like there were some slight little tiny things, but again, it's nothing the crowd would know and nothing that's like, we never had a moment that was like show stopping. You know what I mean? Like it was in control the whole time. So to be in that situation as a band, I know how stressed they were at first and I know how crazy it was to have a guy like Frank sit in and quite literally like kind of save that experience for them of headlining good things. It was honestly a really cool thing to be a part of. Like I can't say enough about Frank. He was a super, super, super nice guy. His tech John was fantastic. And shout out to CHRIZZLY too. His tech John couldn't be at the show in Brisbane. So CHRIZZLY had to basically pay attention to John like all day in Sydney and Melbourne so that in Brisbane, CHRIZZLY teched for Frank, a guy he normally doesn't tech for, and had all of his stuff set up like perfectly. So shout out CHRIZZLY on that one as a tech because he learned the exact way that a different drummer that he doesn't even work for needed their stuff for a show. Yeah, good call, Frosty. Speaking of CHRIZZLY, if you guys aren't aware, CHRIZZLY started doing like drum tech vlogs on YouTube and stuff. And if you want to check it out, I'll throw a link in the description of the video where you can go check out his channel and his videos and stuff too, because it's pretty cool. He's been GoProing like his day and like setting up drums and working and stuff like that. So yeah, the whole thing was just wild, dude, to be a part of something like that. And in the grand scheme of things for the fans too, it had to have, I'm sure they would have preferred to see Electric Callboy in full, but like considering the circumstance of Sum 41 not being able to play and then getting to see Sum 41's drummer play with Electric Callboy, like that was probably a cool moment for the fans too. I mean, you know, every band out there looks online after shows and looks at videos and comments and stuff like that. And I do too. And I was just so happy with the way that the crowd like responded to that. And they thought it was so cool. And yeah, like the festival was happy. It was just, it was a really, it was a crap situation in itself at first, but we made the best of it. And, you know, shout out Frank for filling in and the guys for pulling it all off together. Like it was really cool. And for the Electric Callboy guys, like, most of them grew up and loved Sum 41. So to like have Sum 41's drummer sit and play with them was also very cool for everybody. Like it was really rad. But yeah, dude, overall, I will say the Good Things experience was probably one of the more demanding 3 days I've ever had on tour. I wouldn't quite say stressful. I wasn't really stressed, but it was a lot of work and it was demanding. Like, I mean, on my Fitbit, I put in like 35,000 steps a day overall over 3 days. Like, per day. So 105,000 steps over 3 days. So it was a lot of moving around and a lot of things like running back and forth and double checking things and stuff like that. But yeah, man, the whole thing overall was just a blast. And to be a part of this experience with Frank sitting in with the guys and seeing it happen in real time and being a part of that is just crazy, man. So yeah, hopefully, you know, a lot of you guys saw the videos and there's some people in chat that were at Good Things that saw it. Hopefully you enjoyed it and hopefully you enjoyed like the little story behind how everything came together. Cause you know, Isla, their Sum 41's production coordinator, and John, their drum tech, were a big part of everything. And then their local tour manager, Steve, also a big part of helping us out with everything. Like it wasn't just Frank. It was the whole team involved. So super cool, man. It was really fun. Did he say anything about EC's music? Yeah, he said he absolutely hated it and hated playing it and they suck. But anyways, just wanted to share my perspective and my experience with that. To everybody that was on Twitch, thank you for being here. If you're watching on YouTube later, you can go to twitch.tv/TankTheTech. I stream all the time and we just talk touring stuff, music stuff. And as a reminder, in the description of this video, I'll have both Frank and CHRIZZLY's YouTube channels if you'd like to go check out their stuff as well. But I'm going to wrap this one up. So yeah, thanks for being here. You can also follow me on social media. @TankTheTech is my handle on just about everything. But wherever you are in the world, be safe, be kind to each other. I love you all, and I will be back very soon.